So, what I'm going to try to do is teach you how to play video games with only using your head and speech recognition software. First thing we need to do is get the mouse working by head movement. There's several ways to do this. There's the expensive way, or the free option. There's equipment specially for this like SmartNav, Head Mouse, Boost Tracer, and a couple others. These ones work great and are more accurate, but they cost a lot of money and some of them are discontinued, so they're hard to find. The free option would be Enable eviacam. It uses your web camera to track your face movements and moves the mouse wherever your head is turning. I use this one for years and it works pretty well. There are a couple of games that won't pick up on it, like Resident Evil 7, because it has poorly implemented controls. However, for whatever reason, despite the Steam version not recognizing the input, the Windows Store version works just fine. Also, you need good lighting in your room or it won't track your face very well. Since this is the cheapest option, we'll go with it for the tutorial. So first things first, we need to head over to the website and download the software. Before we get to the program, one thing to consider when choosing your web camera is to make sure it has a zoom function and the camera is placed somewhere with a clear view of your face. You want to make sure the web camera is zoomed in so your head is cropped in via cam's display port. This way it can clearly detect your face and movements. Also, make sure the camera can do at least 30 frames per second to get smooth mouse motion. So now that we have the program downloaded, you need to install it. I'm assuming you know how to install a program, but if you don't, you double-click the file you downloaded, and then click Next a bunch of times until you're done. It's pretty simple. After the program is installed, open it and it will ask you to choose your camera. After that, go to Configuration on the top bar and then click Options. Then you need to click General Options on the left side and then click Settings. This will open your camera settings. From here you need to click Camera Control and adjust your zoom settings until your face is cropped in the middle of eviacam's viewport. Once that's done, click Apply. Now you need to go to Profile Options and under Motion you need to click Assisted Calibration. This will adjust the movement of the mouse to the turning of your head. When asked, turn your head in the proper directions. I found doing smaller head turns works out better than larger ones. After that's done, it will ask you if you want to do dwell clicking. Make sure that is checked to no. Continue with the last prompts until it says finish. The setup should now be complete. After that, you can click the green check button on the main window to activate the mouse. Give it a try and get used to how it works. If you don't like the sensitivity the configuration wizard gave you, you can go into Profile Options and adjust it manually. Here are the settings that I find work pretty well. Once you're comfortable moving the mouse around, we will move on to the next step. Now that we have the mouse set up, let's get on to the next step. We need something that will do the work on the keyboard without requiring your hands to do it. For that, we need to download glovepie. We can type it into Google and go to a GitHub repository where all the versions are currently available, or I will leave that link in the description to make it easier. Once it's downloaded, we need to unzip the file and grab the folder with the latest version, and place it where you want it to be stored. I put mine in my documents. Next we need to right-click the executable and make a shortcut to the desktop. After that's done, open the program. If you get an error saying it's missing a DLL file, The problem would be you're missing directx. The program requires this to run. If you've installed games on your computer, it should already be on there, but if not, we need to either get directx or install a game that has it. Now on to the program. Glovepie allows you to write scripts to do all sorts of things. We will be using it to run our voice command scripts. To make things simple, instead of teaching you the entire program, I've made a script that should be suitable for most games, and all you have to do is fill in the blanks and maybe adjust a few things depending on the game. Some games like God of War with its top-down controls will require different scripts, but we will get to that later. So now, let's take a look at the script, and I will explain how it works. First thing we see at the top is movement controls. These will allow you to move forward, backward, left and right, and also to sprint. The majority of PC games use the W, A, S, and D keys for movement. If you were to say, walk, the script toggles the W key until you say, halt, which disables it. I've written this script so if you were to say walk, and then you said one of the other directional commands, it will immediately release the current direction, and you'll start moving in the next direction. This switch works for any direction you're moving. It makes it so you can quickly change directions on the fly. If you were to say sprint, it will hold down the shift key and cause the character to sprint in the current direction. If you were to say walk again, it will disable the sprint and go back to walking. Anytime you want to stop moving in any direction, you just say, halt. The next set of commands is for navigating menus. The first 4 commands will press the arrow keys for moving up, down, left, and right on menus. If you say select, it will hit the enter key. The pause game command will press escape on the keyboard and pause the game. To unpause the game, you just say, pause game, again. The last one is for doing single left mouse clicks. For that you simply just say, OK, and it will do a single click. If we move down to the bottom of the script, you can see a toggle command for aiming. You can simply say aim and it will hold down the right mouse button until you say aim again. Or you say release. The next command we can see is fight. What this command does is repeatedly taps the left mouse button for a period of 1 second. This works well for repeated firing or for melee combat where you would want to do a repeated attack. If a game has button mashing sections, this would be the same type of script used for that. We will get into how to change this script up for different keys later, and different ways to write it out. Now if we move back up to the middle section, here you will see a row of blank commands. This is where we are going to fill in the custom commands for our game. Each game uses different keys, so you will have to write a new script for each game you play. Once you have the game you want to script in mind, do an internet search for the controls list. For our example, I found a list of game commands for Spec Ops: The Line. We will skip the movement commands since we already have those done. Now, let's take a look at this command first. We've already taken care of this one mostly with the fight command, but we need a command for a single shot. I've made a separate section for mouse-specific commands down below, so that's where we'll write this command. Since this command uses the left mouse button, we need to type left button right here, to tell the command to use the left button. And between the double quotes at the end, we need to give it a word to recognize to execute the command. Since this one is to fire the weapon once, we'll simply name it fire. So, type that between the double quotes. So let's move down to the next one, which is reload. The key it uses is R, so we need to type that key here, and then give it a word to execute the command. So let's name this one, reload. We can continue down the list and do the same for each command. Each command is set to press the key for 1/10 of a second. Sometimes you will get a key command that needs to be pressed for longer. For instance, in this specific game, to pick up a weapon you need to hold the R key 1 second. So we would write the command like the others, putting in the correct key and the word to activate it, but we need to change the time at the end of the command. So to make this press for 1 second, we delete out the current time and then put a 1 instead. If it needs to be longer, let's say 5 seconds, we would put a 5. If it needs to be held down continuously until you tell it to stop, we need to write an advanced command. We will get to that in the next section. For now, keep filling in the basic commands until you have those done. You can copy and paste the command lines if you need more, or delete them if they're left blank. Or you could put 2 slashes in front of the command line to deactivate it so it's there for later. Just make sure to do one or the other, because if the command is left blank without slashes it will cause an error in your code and your script won't work properly. Now that we have the basics, we will move on to advanced controls. Something you might have noticed earlier is that Spec Ops: The Line uses space instead of shift for sprinting. Every once in a while a game will decide to use a different key. So now, we are going to learn how to edit the walking controls to change the sprint command. First, we need to go down to the sprint command and change shift to space. Once that's done, we need to change the shift key in the walk and halt command so the script turns off sprinting correctly. After that's done, you're ready to go. Sometimes though, a game will only require you to tap the button instead of holding it down. If that's the case, we need to delete the sprint command and insert one of the blank commands from below. This way it is only tapped instead of held down. To keep things nice and clean, we need to remove the shift commands from the other walking commands. It's not necessary, but it's good practice. Now for the second advanced command. We are going to learn how to write a simple toggle. You can use the same one that the aim function uses and just change out the key and command, or we can write one from scratch. The one used for the aim function will allow you to say the word to turn it on, and the same word to turn it off. The next example requires 2 steps. The thing to remember when writing toggles is that they function like a light switch. The number 1 means the toggle is turned on. The number 0 means the toggle is turned off. So the first thing we need to do is write, if said, and then a parentheses and a double quote followed by the word. Then we added another double quote and then a end parentheses. What this is doing is telling the program if we say, for example, hold E, it will execute the command. So now we need to put the key we want to hold down, and then put an equals sign followed by 1. This tells it to hold the button down. To finish the command we have to type, end if. Now to turn it off, we would write almost the same exact command, just changing the word, and then instead of putting a 1, we would make it a 0. This tells the program to release the key. The starter script includes the release command, so any toggle you make, you can place the release function in this area and it will release all toggles. The next advanced command we will learn is button mashing. We use the script for our fight command to repeatedly tap the left mouse button. We can just copy this command and paste it wherever we like. Now what we need to do is change the variable name so it doesn't think we are using the fight command. Since the Y variable is in use, we need to pick a different letter and change each spot to the new letter. Once we have all those changed, we need to change the key that is being tapped. At the bottom of the command we can see the key that is being pressed. We just need to get rid of it and replace it with our new key. Change both instances. One is telling it to hold the button down and the other is telling it to release the button. The numbers in between are telling the command how much time to hold the button down and how much time to release it. Up above, the command is telling the script how long to run the variable for. If you want it to be shorter or longer, just change this number. If you want the tapping to be faster, you would change this number to something like 0.5. The smaller the number, the faster it will be, and vice versa. We can change this to any mouse button or keyboard key that is needed in the game. I'm not going to show you how to write the next advanced command because it's a deeper subject, but I will show you how to edit it. If we have a driving game, we need a way to turn the vehicle. Most games don't let you steer with the mouse, so we will have to use a workaround. There is one big problem with this solution. There is no way to stop the mouse input that I know of when you are turning the vehicle. So when we use this command to turn our head left or right to steer, the camera will rotate as well. You can get around this sometimes by changing the vehicle camera in game to first person, if it has that option. Another half-baked solution is to turn the mouse sensitivity down when driving. Or instead of turning your head left and right to steer, you use up and down instead. It takes some getting used to, but a lot of times it's less frustrating. Anyway, here is the command. If we need to adjust the sensitivity of the turning, we would change these numbers to a different value. The lower the number, the more sensitive it will be. The higher the number, the less sensitive it will be. If you want to change the steering from turning your head left and right, we need to change the X value to a Y. This will make it so if you tilt your head up, the vehicle will turn left. And if you tilt your head down, the vehicle will turn right. Just paste the script into your own and adjust it until you're happy. Now for the final command of this video. Fixed camera video games. These games don't have moving camera, so pointing your character in the right direction requires different controls. So let's have a look at a script I designed for this purpose. What you will notice is it's about the same movement controls as the default ones, but it has included variables. With this script, if we were to say walk, you will move toward the top of the screen and the first variable will be activated. What this variable does, is if you are moving to the top of the screen, or the bottom of the screen, it will allow you to turn your head left and right to perform the sideways movements. If you were to move to the left or right of the screen, the second variable would be activated, which allows you to move the character up or down while moving in that direction. If you were to say halt, you will stop and both variables will be activated, which allows you to use your head to fully move the character around as far as your head can turn. This works good for moving about in the general area and making more precise movements. The sensitivity can also be modified exactly like the driving controls. I find the default sensitivity works well for most games, but it's all down to personal preference. Some games use the arrow keys instead, so what you would want to do is either change the keys in the game's option menu or change the keys in the script to match the arrow keys. To use this script, just delete out the current directional controls and paste it into your script. This should get you on your way to playing the majority of video games on PC. The same method also works on consoles as well. But for that, you will need a Titan 1 or Titan 2 adapter. They have trouble recognizing enable eviacam, but not the other mouse equipment. There is ways to get around this, but I will cover that in another video.